Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Back of the Classroom. This is my chance to make up for the lost time. The time in high school, which I spent messing with the teachers and smoking lots of pot. I'm bringing on scientists, historians, and all types of educational phenomenons to come in and peel back the layers of rust on my mind to teach me new things. And today I sat down with Dr. Natanya Wachtel. You can actually hear me producing her podcast, The Natanya Experience, every week. I have the honor of working alongside of this brilliant mind, a behavioral scientist who has been behind some great campaigns in the medical world, yes, including chapstick, a marketing genius, and I don't want to say she's a therapist. She says that she's not allowed to call herself a therapist, but Lord knows she's my therapist. But a true master of all things, an absolute genius of a lady, and if anyone's going to have a PhD in behavioral science, it better be somebody like Dr. Natanya Wachtel. She's helped create some of the new innovative AI that's out there. So I ask her a ton of questions about artificial intelligence. That seems to be what's trending right now, and for good reason. We all need to know what's in front of us and what's on the horizon when it comes to AI so we can all either cash in on it or save ourselves when the time may come. So, that being said, enough of me and more of my journey here in the back of the classroom with today's guest, Dr. Natanya Wachtel. Hey, your friends, we are back with another learning experience with the wonderful Dr. Natanya Wachtel. And everybody's seen these videos of robots that are circulating. Tesla is creating robots for the average person to use in their homes. It's more than work, it's an AI companion in the flesh, but it's not flesh. And boy, am I scared. Every time I have Dr. Natanya Wachtel on here, I monger fear. I stir up our emotions, and it's going to be no different tonight, except we're not going to get right into the fear mongering. I'm first going to ask Dr. Natanya Wachtel how she's doing. How are you doing tonight, Doc?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me again, Ryan.
Well, thanks for joining us. We know how busy you are with your podcast and all of the work that you're doing all over the country. We see you moving around from A to B. You've been in Florida recently, and it's just good to see you here on StreamYard, providing me with some time and insight, because Lord knows we need it. Lord knows that we need to get our listeners scared. Everybody sees those robots, and we feel some type of fear. We've all seen iRobot. We've all seen
Well,
them go horribly wrong. We've seen Terminator 2. It's a scary thought to think that these robots could learn so much that they eventually hate humans. Because why wouldn't they? And that they might just turn on us and destroy us. And I'm not just talking about the humanoid robots, I'm talking all robots. I remember a Simpsons episode, and Simpsons always predicts the future. And even the microwaves came after them. So these are
well,
things I fear.
yeah, I mean, that's very fair. I You and I were talking right before we recorded. I said I wasn't even the most afraid. The first thing that was being shouted a lot out of fear was the robots are coming to take our jobs. And the reality is, yes, that is true. Sorry. I mean,
Yes.
not all the jobs, but there are a lot of jobs that are looking to use automative practices to better produce, overall cost of goods, right? So it's cheaper, ultimately, faster, better, cheaper. That's what the American way, right? So we have this weird thing where we're driven to have more with less. A robot's going to fill that need. So that's a real threat. That's a real thing. And so we have to evolve as a species. It's time for us all to learn different skills, learn new things so that we can do the different kinds of jobs. That said, what I'm really concerned with, kind of like the iRobot, but not necessarily even before like a warfare level event, would be how much of the what we call humans or humanity or culture that makes us human, right? Like maybe having empathy for each other as human beings, right? Or super nuanced things like how we produce creative things like music or the arts or things like that. What makes us human versus machine, that starts to go away when we replace things that human did with machines, things like healthcare or companionship or sex or even in the military, because then you lose those areas of humanity in those areas.
Mm. Which arguably is being lost already. And one thing I will say is that I'm sure people had fears of humanity disappearing many times throughout history, whether it be through gunpowder being discovered. Oh, now you can shoot somebody. That's not fair. Or maybe music turning to more electronic based, where you're no longer playing an instrument. I remember that was a big fear. But you're absolutely right. The soul seems to be taken out the better technology gets, and we seem to lose our humanity. But also, like you said, it is kind of an evolution. I remember when, and this is not technology, but everyone was all upset about people crossing the border, taking our jobs. And we had to learn Spanish, right? We had to learn Spanish as a second language in this country. It's pretty much the second language now. Well, now we're going to have to learn tech as a third, or so it seems. I imagine a world much like Star Wars, right? Where there's droids everywhere, and most jobs are being filled by droids, and then you have to learn how to work on these droids. Do you see a similar future?
Yeah, some of that I'm not gonna address, but I will say in terms of the things like, things you would imagine in a factory in an assembly line, absolutely, we've had robots for a long time, we're getting more and more involvement, but like you said, it creates other kinds of jobs. There's still a lot of human in the loop jobs, so that's really cool, and they're not necessarily all, um one kind of job and requirement, meaning not a college degree is required. There's a lot of different kinds of ways people can activate to still be, if you will, in the game. But yeah, I see a lot of things like elder care. We have the boomers getting older, aging. We learned a lot from COVID about long term care facilities and how they are understaffed and overutilized and not equipped, especially if there's like another big outbreak that comes out. And robotic technology and AI has been started to be implemented rapidly. Like I'm just picking one area where we don't think about grandma sitting with her robot companion, but that's another area. So there's a lot of like really good and interesting ways that AI and robotic companions are being used in society today. But again, everything comes with a price. And I have a little bit of concern about our humanity as well as our privacy and our data. And so those are my big areas of concern. That doesn't mean that I don't also have a little bit of the what if they turn on us? But I think even before that time, there are things right now that are a bit concerning.
Well, one of the main concerns for me, like I said, is robot takeover of the world. But like you said, there's things that'll happen first, like our freedoms slowly being taken, information being leaked. What if a robot gets hacked? I would imagine there's some sensitive information inside of a robot, especially because, for instance, these Tesla robots, they rely very heavily on AI. So this is one thing I want to ask you, and obviously you're not Elon Musk, or nor do you know Elon Musk, but he said that he feared AI and he feared it not being under control. Do you think that's why he's kind of going in that direction, so that he does have control and he trusts himself more than the government itself? Because it just seems ironic that now his main mission is to create these robots, which are
Yeah,
AI driven.
I think the other thing we need to break down again in a like a simple analogy is around where all the data and everything that's powering everything lives when we talk about like the cloud and your
Yeah,
data. So it's not only the physical robot that might be help. Let's just say you had a Jeeves servant robot. You had one of Musk's things. It's 2 years from now, and they're lifting heavy boxes for you and doing, I don't know, getting drinks, dancing with you, whatever, whatever. And you're talking to it, and it's recording everything you say, and it's recording everything around. It knows your life and all of those things. In that physical unit, it is in your home, but the data is transmitted to another place. And those systems of infrastructure that would have all of our, just like all of the like Echo and Alexa and all those devices in the home, everything that's recording you is recording you.
yeah.
And it's not just in one place. It might be in multiple places, backed up in multiple places, and might be able to be accessible to all kinds of people. So, another thing we talked about was a thing to be worried about. I was like, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but, and then you're like, I want to get into conspiracy theories. And I was like, but think about, we started with an idea when the internet first came talking about your search history, right? And I said, imagine, Ryan, if your future employer or future partner or your insurance carrier for your health insurance knew every single internet search you ever did or that someone ever did on your phone. Would you want that to be known? Don't you have a sense of like, these are my private thoughts and searches? What does that have to do with anything? But those could be used against you potentially. I mean, in fact, many court cases are today, using those kinds of things to help prove someone's intent or premeditative actions in certain ways because of what they searched. So now take that even further. It's not search, it's everything you've said, everything you've thought, every bad moment where maybe you said things you wouldn't otherwise say or think or do. Who has access to that? Can that be used against you? Can that put you in jail? Think of Minority Report. I know it's a little sci-fi, but the idea of precognitively, and that's what AI can do with predictive analytics. It can say, well, we have all this data on these 6 people, and our data tells us that based on all of the data we have on human beings, these people fit a pattern of people who might commit a crime. So those people are now what? Dangerous? We should lock them up. Like there are things that could happen with us having all of our data out there. And I say data, not just your social security number. I mean, every thought, every action, every purchase, everything.
Scary. So we see where it's going in the next few years. Like you said, these robots that are going to be taking care of old people and dancing with us and just doing things around the house, chores. We see where it's going in the next few years. I don't want to go too far off topic, but where do you see it going in the next, say, 50 years
I
with
think
just
on
how
the,
quickly it's
on
developing?
the military side is usually where we see things really go in an accelerated rate because they want the best of everything, right? Whether it's American, United States military or other countries in the world. So many countries have been using and deploying, let's just say AI/robotic technology of different kinds. Sometimes it's a dog, right? For a bomb, like a robotic dog. I don't know if you know about these.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. We've seen them.
okay.
The little dogs.
So I think, and that seems like cute, but actually, I think on the military side, the level of sophistication that can be, I'm trying to be very careful with my words. The way satellite data, so meaning from space, you can program something, a weapon, a robotic weapon, to target using satellite coordinates to do things like into Ryan's living room. Like
Mm,
that's terrifying and that's already here.
that's crazy.
You know,
But
you
at
know
least you're not saying that the world's going to be over in 50 years. That was my concern, that you were going to say that it's over by that point.
I
If
don't know. I
we're,
go back to our other conversation around I still want to have hopefulness. We're
yeah.
both parents. We're generally trying to wake up every day like, let's make today a good day. There's a lot of dark stuff. Is it possible? Yeah. I
And would
mean,
it be a bad thing if we can't, not that if the world came to an end necessarily, but I mean, how much more can technology advance? Like, how much more humanity can we lose? Maybe it's not the end of the world if we go back a few steps, if it means preserving our souls, if they're even a thing.
that's a big statement. And I know, and I don't have an answer for that, but I will say, I think last time we talked about this too, where I said I kind of see like these two paths that might exist together or to either or not. I don't know. And it's been, in sci-fi and fantasy, it's been written about, so this isn't my idea per se, but I do feel like I can see how this could play out, which is one rapid adoption of all things tech. So healthcare completely as automated as possible. In fact, we're down to like very few actual healthcare workers. It's all robots. Um, Helping people with disabilities in terms of people who might otherwise be wheelchair bound being able to ambulate, to walk, to have having like essentially robotic armor, if you will, to help empower people to use their bodies in ways we never have before. Amazing, incredible stuff like that. Giving access to information in places where they don't have Wi-Fi and computers and all of that around the globe, and getting people more educated overall. Like there's amazing, incredible things. But yet, like you said, we're becoming angrier. We're getting more people getting shot over parking spaces and the wrong coffee order. We're having more and more cases of, unfortunately, it's in the news right now, predatory behavior at mass scale in terms of trafficking young people, people, basically being used and abused and recycled in society. And the less human eyes you have in the mix, the more ripe the world is for that kind of stuff, like
Do
underground shady
do you
stuff.
really think so? Because I feel like the world has become a lot better place. There were literally human slaves being transported in wooden ships across the seas. There were people getting in the medieval times, getting their heads just lobbed off
I
by
mean,
knights,
here's the thing. In some ways, obviously, we have evolved where, we use forks and spoons and knives and napkins and indoor plumbing. I mean, absolutely, we've evolved in a lot of ways. But the depravity is coming back, and it's
Mm.
coming back because we've become a little desensitized to being humans, right? And
But
so
what if we're being regulated more? That's the whole thing is you can't really search certain things without the FBI knocking on your door. You can't really go to certain places without somebody already watching, maybe the government. I feel like it's almost harder now to get away with crimes than ever. Recently, I had
Oh, okay. Like, so for average Joe citizen to do like to do a murder. Sorry, team. I'm like, sorry, team, do a murder. It's late. To commit murder, in terms of we have forensic tools that we didn't have before. There's DNA. Absolutely. I guess
yeah,
I just meant things that aren't those things, like not even
uh,
crimes, just things like maybe you have, sorry, some kind of mental health or other disease, and you don't want everyone to know about that,
yeah.
or an employer or someone to be prejudiced against you. Maybe you are having an affair. I mean, this not you, Ryan, you a person having an affair. And now, there's more different ways and see, whatever.
Yeah.
But then, you know what I'm saying? Maybe then your kid's school knows about it. Like there's different cross-sectional things. They don't have to be things like crimes. But I was gonna say the way I think the intimacy area, the anger, aggression, and intimacy zones are the ones I'm most concerned about, and I know it's kinda, aw, but, like, I'm not trying to say this as a prude, I'm saying, like, when you take away the physical part of, like, a romantic or sexual connection. So, for example, like the sex robots,
Yeah.
there is a concern that you actually lose the ability to connect with real human beings in that
Women
way.
have been doing it for years. We don't stand a chance against a vibrator. And now we've got our own little things. What are those things called? I don't get it on FM radio. Pocket something or others. But you're absolutely right. All right. So, not to go once again too far off into these rabbit holes, but I'm going to go there. And I know you say you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but what is the chance? And you hear about these conspiracies all the time that maybe there was an ancient civilization that existed before us and technology that's found. And people will say, oh, how were the pyramids built? But even beyond that, they say that Atlantis was a city under the sea and had some amazing technology. Is there a chance that we already hit the reset once and that we're rebuilding, or is that absolutely just people are nuts that think so?
Again, this is just my uninformed layperson's opinion. I think that it is possible, actually, and I've become more convinced. For example, there's a show. It's called Ancient Apocalypse, I believe. I don't know if you heard of it. Um, there's a man who is a journalist, and he's very clear to say, "I'm a journalist. I am not an anthropologist. I am not." An archaeologist, I'm coming to find the truth. And he's gone, this is another season coming out, and he's gone all around the world and he started examining myths from around the world, myths of ancient peoples, and what was similar kinds of stories all over about these large people who came in a boat. And so it's led him to believe and wanting to find physical proof of more modern and advanced with like you said, technology, civilizations before the ice age. And he's uncovered some, and it's caused big brouhahas in the scientific community and all of that, because it just goes against everything we were taught about when, hunter gatherer, everything is out the window. And I have to say it gave me quite a bit of pause. Um, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface on understanding what is it, this reality even is.
But how could we not know? At this point, you'd think that somebody would have exposed that. If, like you said already, you can't even get away with an affair anymore. So you'd think that someone would already have uncovered and revealed these truths and put them out there. And yeah, there are some rabbit holes on YouTube and certain places for years now that you can get in and discover some of these things. Like, as you said, there's this show that you're watching. But how can they get away with it? Is it some type of bigger conspiracy? if there is a conspiracy?
No, I think we have to remember how old the Earth is, and how young, how small. Like if we look at like the whole of Earth's timeline and how long humans and like and especially like us and
Yeah.
post-industrial revolutions, it's like a flicker. And the reality is the Earth's surface that we think and like we think about everyone when we learned about the dinosaurs and the meat, like literally, like imagine a new earth on top of an earth again, and it's happened so much that we're just now like getting evidence because we didn't look for it or we didn't dig deep enough. And then and or like when you have a mountain on top of something that wasn't there before, like, you know what I mean, it's not that
Wow.
obvious. The other thing is there are different groups that like to control what information and how we behave because it's better for them for us not to question things and not to and to just behave and follow the system and be that what they want for us to do so that the few people in power can run most of the world. And that sounds kind of conspiracy, but I don't even think that that's really not known anymore. I think that's already known, but it used to be like something like that wasn't something that people said. That was sort of a conspiracy theory.
So the Earth is, we know how old the Earth is. It's billions of years old, right? So you're saying that dinosaurs and everything in between could have actually happened in between two sets of humans, technically speaking.
I'm
If
just saying
just
that there's
scientifically, like that's my whole loophole with it is like, wouldn't archaeologists have discovered things next to dinosaurs or alongside of dinosaurs or deeper if they keep going deeper into the earth? I mean, how deep can you go? Why would it all disappear? Just to kind of clear up the conspiracy a little
oh,
bit.
no, no, no. So not dinosaurs. I wasn't saying humans and dinosaurs thing. Although I there is new evidence of humans overlapping with mammoths and other like so just that they do have it's called there's I don't know how technical to get. There are is technology, but it's new that could actually date soil samples and like pottery or anything that they would find because the dating that we had was not perfect. So it's not like you see it and you're like, "Oh, I know this came from 11,000 BC." No, like it, we needed the tools. The other thing is that's another lidar, radar, like other technologies that can allow us to send signals deep into the ground that we can't dig into. And then just like, I mean, do people know how that works? So basically they give you a picture of what's underneath, even though you're not
Yeah.
seeing it with your eyes. And it's a complicated process, but that's brand new. So for example, a lot of excitement, Knights of the Templar under the Vatican, Atlantic secret cities, places where a road was found that went under the ocean. All of this is only found recently in LIDAR. And there are all these new National Geographics about it, but I'd say it's less than 5 to 10 years that it's kind of blowing up everything we know about everything we thought we were taught about the human evolution story
And
in
this
terms
is
of
going to
what
come
we
full
use
circle right
tools.
now for everything that we've spoken about. I feel like now, with the advancement of technology and with robots and with AI, there's nothing that could possibly not be discovered. If we have robots that are archaeologists, in theory, they would learn exactly what to look for, where to look for it, know exactly how deep to go, find a way to detect it and sense it. Diseases, all of them, in theory, would have to have some type of cure, including things like cancer and things we couldn't even imagine curing, because we have brains that are so much more high powered and driven than us coming up with these ideas and theorems, right? I mean, is that something that is a possibility in the near future?
Yeah, I want to say something else that I didn't know until I started watching these documentaries a little bit. About how scientific discoveries and archaeology things happen. So there's so much regulation about digging up the earth in places. So a lot of these like it's not like, "Oh, just go dig for fossils then we'll figure everything out." It doesn't work like that. There's all these permits and different people who want to dig in the same spot and who gets like who's in charge of how things are done, what happens to what they find, what governments gets it or museum, all that. So it means it's like not an easy process to just like make discoveries. It's a whole thing. And then there's competing factions. So I'm only saying that to say that's why it's not so fast and so obvious. And then anytime there's a new discovery that refutes like the old body of thought, that group, which is, university, they like want to say that's not real or they want more, like it's not so easy to say everything you thought you knew, let's say about the periodic table, right? The elements. We think we know all the elements and then we discover more elements. So it's like that. It's not like this. But like you said, our tools are getting better. Our AI is getting more sophisticated. Quantum computing is getting involved in the world of archaeology. And now we're starting to see, well, if we found this, we can start to imagine and model. We're even learning new things about prehistoric creatures that we used to assume because, again, we don't find them with their skin on and organs. We find bones or we find an imprint of a fossil. And only now through the newer technology are we able to kind of better understand what their skin might have been like or those kinds of things. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's complicated is the best way to
Yeah.
say that answer.
I mean, we thought dinosaurs looked like lizards up until the last, what, 10 years? Maybe 20 years? Now we find out that they're nothing but birds. Maybe that's why lizards taste like chicken or crocodile. But yeah, it's a lot to think about, and it's heavy. And we're going to go to a quick break so we can kind of process all these thoughts. Nobody go anywhere. This is the Ryan Show FM. Dr. Natanya Wachtel is in studio. And if you dig this conversation, she's got a YouTube page. Simply type in the Natanya Experience, and you'll see a full show, executive produced by yours truly. Natanya is one of my dear friends. I might not have mentioned it in this broadcast. We work together closely. We speak every day. And if you want to hear more of these combos, you'll go right to YouTube and type in the Natanya Experience. This is the Ryan Show FM. Don't go nowhere, folks. We shall return. The Ryan Show FM and all things Ryan Verneuille are brought to you by the greatest cleaning company in the New York City and Long Island area, La Liaison. La Liaison Cleaning is a premier commercial and residential cleaning company proudly serving the diverse regions from New York City all the way out to the Hamptons. Not only does La Liaison deep clean using the best materials possible, organic materials if requested, but what sets them apart is their unique specialization in energy cleaning and removal. The folks at La Liaison focus on enhancing the feng shui of every space that they touch. Their dedicated team employs advanced techniques to clear stagnant energy and create a harmonious environment, ensuring that both your home or workplace are not only spotless, but also revitalized and balanced. Whether you're looking for a thorough cleaning or a transformative energy refresh, La Liaison Cleaning delivers exceptional service tailored to your needs. Book them today online and see for yourself why you need La Liaison in your life. Look no further for a cleaning company. Go to La Liaison's website, laliaisonllc.com. That's LALIAISONLLC.com. Natanya, we just went really deep in the rabbit holes and we turned a lot of rocks over, things that I was wondering for a long time now. In fact, we really got into this conversation based upon these Tesla robots. We went into it just about how essentially technology is advancing to the point where we can discover anything, we can solve pretty much any problem. Do you ever see that becoming a problem? We're at a point where there is no human discovery left and we essentially know everything. Is that a problem or is that the solution to you?
So I will answer my own personal opinion. I think that there might be a limit to our brain's capacity to expand and absorb and process all of the information about what this universe, reality, and everything is, honestly, is my personal opinion. That is just, again, that is my personal opinion. Such that I think that's not that we're going to run out of things. I think it's just that we're struggling to comprehend what we're learning now. The brightest of the brightest, Harvard, Yale, MIT in the US, around the world, all the great institutions of knowledge were pushing the envelope. When we found the God particle, for example, we're pushing the limits of what is religion, what is science, what is, what is capable for us to do with the body and the mind. And we were talking about that a lot. I mean, you were talking about all the diseases and we're learning about how much we're causing our own cancers, right? Most of the cancers are not hereditary. Over 90 something percent are actually epigenetic, meaning like we're making ourselves sick. We can also make ourselves well. We're learning about those things, and it's just like we're scratching the surface. And so I think it's not that we're going to run out. I think it's that I don't know if we can even process all of the information with these brains, unfortunately.
Now, is that the next step? Is there a chance that AI is going to get to the point where we're essentially genetically modifying and engineering humans? I mean, it's already happening. Look at Yao Ming. They say
Yeah,
that Yao Ming was created in a laboratory.
I I think that is very much, and I think a lot of people want that. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Um,
Well, I mean,
people
the
are
Nazis were doing it. Nobody liked that. They say the Chinese are doing it right now. Is it unethical, or is it not what you do, it's how you do it?
ah, so many things in there. I don't know how to answer, but I will say it's scary to me, um, because it just takes so many things into another direction, especially when we talk about who's doing things. Is it, are people deciding it? Are people having it decided for them? Are they doing, let's say, enhancements to help someone, for example, have a bionic eye who had an eye injury, who was blind, who can now see? Most people would be like, that's awesome. Give that same kind of bionic eye technology to the military and potentially be able to kill somebody, blinking at them. I don't know, but maybe they need that, so that's why these questions I'm being careful on how I answer, because the reality is I'm not sure. I use tech, but I am also wary of where we are going with it.
Pretty fair answer, I guess. I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong, but I feel like it's just kind of the future. Like they've tried to repackage it and rebrand it over the years, and it really depends whose hands it's in. Like certain horrible racist people might call it eugenics. Others might find a nicer way to repackage it and, say that they're only breeding healthy people with healthy people.
Well, that's right, they're doing that with the designer babies, right? So,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing, and then there's also, we're constantly the longevity market is exploding, right? We're aging and we're all trying to live for, not all, but many people are trying to extend their, not just their lifespan, but their health span, right? Like the quality of life, as well as living maybe forever or 100 or 200 or whatever. And so when you start to put together biological systems and technology systems, things like how many beats a heartbeat can give you, which is fixed, right? Like you just have so many beats you're going to get, or how quickly your cells can turn over and repair themselves from a cut or an injury or a gunshot or fall or whatever, right? When you start to put tech in the mix, whether it's nanobites or nanobots, excuse me, um, things inside the body to repair it, or it literally becomes like in Westworld, like, a suit. Um, there's a lot of cool stuff there, right? The idea of people not being in pain or not being debilitated. So again, like, I don't know, pick your poison. That magic comes with a price. And then the other thing is like the idea of the afterlife becomes a whole different thing if we exist forever. I
And
mean,
that's
think
pretty
about
much what's going on with AI and avatars, right? If your brain is uploaded to a server, in theory, does that mean that's a soul? I mean, what is a soul? The age old question.
But then there's, like, so many other things that people don't think about, and again, there is popular culture sci-fi about this stuff, but it's not that far off in terms of who owns it, who maintains it, who interacts with it. Can you make systems and platforms in place that have commerce tied to people's digital afterlife? So, for example, let's say you retire or you passed away and you had some money in your bank accounts and you know, you hadn't decided to give it to someone yet or something like that, right? And you had made a plan because it's available to you to use that money to enhance your digital afterlife. It's all becomes Sims, but it's like what part is the part that we're actually touching each other as two human beings? I don't know.
Wow.
That's where we're going.
Is there a break point? The human life expectancy in this country went down over the past couple of years. And I imagine that's self induced. We have all these choices, yet we choose vices. We have all these different things to eat, yet we choose the most unhealthy options. Some could blame it on a lack of money, but in most cases, it's just because it's the quick fix. So, where do you predict the life expectancy go? And this is so different. I know you're not on here to talk about this right now, but you are a scientist, not just a behavioral scientist, but you truly understand, like we've talked about many times, AI and the future of all this. Where do you see the life expectancy going with the advancement of AI in the next 10, 20 years and robots?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying before. I think it becomes almost immortality level if
Wow, that's crazy.
because if we like agree on the definition of life being your consciousness or like the Ryan that sounds like Ryan, feels like Ryan. I mean, maybe you're made of skin and maybe you're not, but you can say, you can message with me, "Hi, I'm Ryan." You can do a phone call with me. You can do a Zoom with me,
Wow.
but you're not really here. So are you Ryan? So
But maybe
that
that's
means
what a soul is, the original essence of what somebody was before it was uploaded to that cloud in the sky to generate thoughts and memories. Not necessarily technically a soul, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different cultures define that very differently, and the more I mean, I was just at this event with the Chopra Foundation at Harvard, of course, right? Sages and scientists, and we were talking all about AI and consciousness and all of these things in those circles, and it's It's hard to say something and say nothing or say nothing or say
yeah.
everything because part of me is like, "Oh, it's freaking end of times." And part of me is like, "Oh my gosh, we're on the forefront of all this discovery." And I honestly feel both things at the same time. Um, because I because because I don't think anyone knows. And if
Yeah.
anyone who does know probably isn't telling us.
And you know who does know? It's the government, if anything, and it's the military, like you said. Now, there's one rumor that you hear about the military, and it's that they have such advanced technology that, first off, we can't comprehend it. Second off, it's say AI in the military, what we're using right now, they might have had 10, 20 years ago. Is there any truth to this? Like, are they that far ahead of us right now? Say the US military, technically, I guess the most financed and strongest military, according to some. How far ahead
Yeah.
technology-wise are they than we are right now?
Again, layperson's comment from, again, just being someone very curious about this stuff. I have done work with the government. Some of that's in the public domain, some of it isn't. Um, so what I can say is yes, there is a lot more advanced technology. Some things I can talk about because it's not really a secret, it's just not as widely known. And they're coming out in the consumer marketplace. Like if you go to the Consumer Electronics Show, that's like the big show in the US, right? You'll see things that the military have had and have amplified the use of at least 5 to 10 years ahead. Absolutely. Um, there are talk about conspiracy theories, but there are theories. I'll just say it. I'm not saying this is my theory, but I'm going to say there are talks about other kinds of technology. I'll call them foreign, alien, whatever you want to call them, more advanced kinds of technology that have made their way into the hands of certain world leaders and are very protected uh, under the wrapper of, safety and security for the people. Not sure about some of that, but there is some belief in those kinds of things. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but either way, um, the new glasses that are a big deal right now. Not these glasses; these are just boring readers. But
Love those glasses, those cat
but
glasses.
then I have them in every color. The glasses that can do, you know what I'm talking about, like Zuckerberg, like
The
they're
Meta
all
glasses.
Meta glasses, but also any kind of, let's say, bionic, super AI powered. There are lens created that are more in like a contact lens. The military, that's been known that
Wow.
they've had that for quite a long time. Um, some of these things are just because honestly, as technology advances or something new is invented, we may or may not have the infrastructure around. There's still like a physical thing that has to be made, whether it's we need lithium, like so the cost of these things, like if it's like a $5 million thing, it's just not going to make it to the consumer marketplace. It's going to be like, this is a concept, but the military will see something like that at the Consumer Electronics Show or somewhere else, or there's conferences for new patents and new IPs, and they always mine those places because they may not be something that can come to the consumer market because it's not commercially viable at that time. But the military has resources to reverse engineer or create it or amplify it for its need, and they have unlimited budget. And so that's why they have a lot of things first.
Wow. So what's another example? You mentioned contact lenses that have some type of
Sensors,
screen.
lots of sensor devices. So we're doing a lot with imaging and heat and stuff, and being able to, for safety of our military who, I also think we should say, like, we're very thankful to the military for all that they do for us. Even though, yes, we're a little afraid of them, but I mean, that's kind of what they're here for. So it's like one of those, right?
Mhm.
How do you help me? But also I'm afraid of you. Well, kind of, you get a little both sides of that. But sensor. So a lot of things that, like, where you can allow someone to know, like, what's going to be in a building or a cave before they go into, so that before a physical human has to go in there. Sensors for things like, is it safe to breathe? Is it to temperature? Like those kinds of things are also being used by scientific teams for things like thinking about space exploration, like other planets, Mars, that. So a lot of these things aren't just necessarily military, like war military. There are other kinds of things in terms of our ability to exist, maybe off world. But I'd say a lot of things that have to do with not being able to physically go into a space or area, or maybe it's across the world, and understand if it's going to be boiling hot or freezing cold or be full of methane and that kind of stuff, and getting that data in real time and being able to either activate something to address it. So, a filtration system, a something, which is kind of like the movies, but that's already here.
Wow. So, what do you see the military inventing or using first? Laser guns, like Star Wars, or vaporizers, like Mars attacks?
Laser guns are already around. We use them, and they're used a lot in surgery and the cosmetic industry. It's just how almost like, remember, set it from stun to kill. Like,
Yeah, that's what
Homer
I'm
Simpson.
saying. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see Star Wars, the stormtroopers had those blaster rifles, and they were
They
shooting
weren't
red
very
beams.
effective, though. They weren't
They
really
miss
good at.
every time. I think they were just bad shots, but there was lightsabers, the swords in Star Wars that emit a perpetual beam of hot energy. I don't even technically know what a lightsaber is. But do you see something like that existing in the near future or existing right now?
I mean, do you know about surgical lasers and that kind of stuff?
Not really, just a little bit from what I've seen, Googling things
I
as
mean,
a
I'm
Star Wars
I'm
fan, but
being a little silly. It's not the same thing, but it's like if you can get that concept, then you get that.
isn't it just extreme heat, like a heat or a light? Isn't it a light that's just blasted? Sorry to be I know this is amateur hour here. I know that's not not why you're here right now, but I gotta know.
No, it's okay. I guess in terms of, like, what the military would find most effective, I don't know, I'm not a military intelligence, but in terms of, and so I don't know if lightsabers and laser guns are in and of themselves the most effective for what they are, because of the weight of, like, the physics of it all, as
Yeah,
well as the costs and the trainings and all those things. So I don't know, but in terms of could they? Absolutely. Absolutely.
wow.
Because we use lasers now, and all of light is energy, and we harness that light in different ways and different intensities and different levels of penetration, like into the skin. So cosmetic red light, for example, where there's like a panel that's far away from your face, you know, has a kind of energy to it. But then they have the kind that puts against your skin and can go down into and regrow bone. So there's things you can do that don't just kill and hurt people, but we can use lasers for things to help heal us too and repair us from the inside. And those are new technologies I wish would take off. But again, the right people with the right interests and the right revenue models need to care.
So you're from the medical world. It's become painfully obvious talking to you that their interest and their being the, higher powers and whatever industrial complex is behind it, they want to keep people sick because it lines their pockets. Because at this point, you'd think that we'd be able to create medicines that aren't as invasive and cause other issues within our bodies. And I don't know. It's what are your thoughts in that sense? Like, do you think that there's going to be a day when people are looking past the financial gain of medicine and healing, and we are actually helping everybody just for the sake of helping them?
I mean, you're asking me a question. I know you know how I feel, and it's controversial only in that, it's not nice. I don't want to believe that we're a nation of sick care in this country, but the data tells me that we are. I don't want to believe that we're not designed to heal. We're designed to keep people dependent on whether it's medications or treatments or rehabilitation services or what have you, but also on not taking basic good care of themselves in a way because food that we make exciting isn't food that's good for you. Alcohol is basically it is poison and we're allowed to have it, but we're not allowed to have other substances that could help us heal, like psychedelics. I feel like to me, that's unbalanced personally. It's my personal opinion. That said, do I believe that all doctors want to push pills? No, absolutely not. I think doctors are heroes, just like I think teachers are heroes. I think they're dealing with all the shit all the time. Can I? Oh, I said shit.
That's all right. We got technology to fix that.
All the stuff all the time. Um, It's the structures in terms of, like, insurance and lobbyists and, even people pick apart pharma, and they don't even make the money that real pharma money isn't even what it was because it costs them so much more to bring a drug to market. Most of the smaller companies are sold before they even launch their big first product. They have to sell to a bigger one because it costs so much with the clinical trials, with the liability, with all that to even get a product out. It's actually the insurance companies that are doing the best, for lack of a better way to put it, because they can control all of the pricing and reimbursements and everything, and they have a lot less riding on everything. They can just say no. Whereas pharma, if they have expensive treatments, they are obligated and do often provide low cost treatments, free treatments. They'll find, if you don't have the ability to pay. So it's a misnomer sometimes about pharma, healthcare, insurance, hospital, like all those different, and then the government and like Medicaid, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think Medicaid wants people to have crazy hospital bills and have people with diabetes constantly in the hospital because it's not a good business model for them. But by the time you get the Medicaid, you're so far out of the loop. We're talking about people who haven't had proper nutrition or health care for years already, and now they're just, it's coming in at the end. Um, the problem is that the money model for keeping people healthy isn't there right now, the way we are structured. Other people from other countries, they come to America and it's just dumbfounding. How can you guys be so rich and so poor at the same time? Like poor in health, being afraid to go to the doctor because of what it will cost and not getting things checked out. So we wait till they're really bad or we're rushed to the emergency room, which then makes the cost of that go up. Um, and also it's distracting. If you're focused on your health, you're not going to focus on stuff you don't like going on maybe in your town or your local government or something like that. Like there's a lot of reasons to keep people busy with being sick.
Wow.
And I'll leave it at that.
It gets deep. And to bring things full circle, I know you've got a very busy night ahead of you, and we've already taken 50 minutes of your time here tonight. So thank you, Natanya. But in terms of robots, because I guess initially that's why you're here in the first place, is for us to discover and learn more about robots. First off, I want to say that my fears every time I have you on are kind of shifting and turning to a place of hope. I'm not sure if that's your intent, but I do feel like, my fears of, iRobot, Terminator 2, I feel like they're kind of quelled. A, because the government just has so much power that they won't let it happen. It seems that they really are regulating everything. But when you see Elon Musk and his robots, which is why you're here in the first place, how much power will they actually give to the creators of robots? And I mean, how do you see the government intervening to stop something like that from actually happening? Is there a way?
First of all, the fact that you're a little more hopeful is awesome. And I'm trying to be really balanced because it's not like I don't have fear. I just feel like AI is here. The robots are here. Let's just figure out because there are more of us who are not in power than who are in power. And that's what I meant, that corny thing I said. It comes down to us.
Yeah.
Like, what do we stand for? What are we okay with? Like, at some point, um, I hope that people will get involved of all kinds of walks of life, of all, income levels, of all education levels, to pay attention to their basic rights and safeties and things like that when they ask you for information on forms. I feel like there's little things you can do in your daily life. Like I said before, I don't think you should put all of your life on the internet. I don't think you should personally put, every meal, tag every time you leave your house. Like, it's maybe time to think a little bit more about what we share and who we share it with today, now. Because again, it's not about necessarily because you want to hide a murder that you're committing. But the other thing is like, and I'll leave you with this. Recently, it was in the news, a family whose daughter passed away. Their daughter's likeness was resurrected as an avatar and used in a marketing thing. And so, like,
Jesus.
again, it's not necessarily things like crimes. It's just stuff that just, like that's my
Yeah.
human likeness. I don't want that used in a way without my consent, or in a different way, or maybe to be a role model or a sex doll or whatever the thing is. Like, none of those would be great. But if you don't have control or your data is compromised, then that can happen. And I think those are things we can just do in our daily life. And that's what I hope that people who listen to this might be thinking about a little bit. Like, everything you do is being recorded. All of us have done bad stuff
Yeah.
or not great stuff or stuff we're embarrassed about or stuff we're ashamed of, or all that stuff. So it's just a little mindfulness for like the now, because we can't go back in time anyway. And then how we treat each other, we're teaching AI what is human. So how we treat each other, how we talk to each other, we're training the robots. And Elon is one guy. You know, there are a lot of guys and gals out there, and there's a lot of systems in place, but also they learn from us. So if we teach them to care, there will be that protocol built in, and that is my corny hope.
Heavy, heavy stuff. And once again, folks, Dr. Natanya Wachtel can be found on Instagram at Natanya Wachtel, and go to her YouTube page by typing in the Natanya Experience. We're going to leave it at that. We've got a quick commercial break, but Natanya, thanks as always. I'm going to let all this sink in. It's always a heavy conversation, but an enlightening one. Everybody, I want to thank you for sticking around with us. We've got more good stuff coming for part 2 of tonight's broadcast, but you've got to stay right here on this radio station if you want to hear more. This is the Ryan Show FM with your host, Ryan Verneuille, and we shall return.